ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Hey, oh, oh, hey, la 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 ya da da dum ya da 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 dum ya da 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 ya da 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 dum Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me, be my friend. Together we will walk in the land of Hashem. Hey, hey. Oh, 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 hey, hey, oh. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Be holy, Sharet Sadeh Avovam, Hodea Zashar, Ladonai Tzadikim Yavo. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Vasuli mikdash v'shachanti betoham va'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata ve'arolam. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me, be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you, a sanctuary for you, a sanctuary for you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is so lovely to have you with us on such a snowy Shabbat. I love to watch the light twinkle on the snow. It reminds me of how small we are, and yet when our light shines, we are unstoppable. I'd like to also welcome a very dear friend who is going to be helping us so ably this particular Shabbat, Rabbi Heather Altman, who is the masked rabbi right now. Rabbi Altman graduated from Emory University and the Jewish Theological Seminary. She has been a spiritual leader, a teacher, a speaker. She has created tefillah yoga, a way to be prayerful using your entire body. And besides being a dear friend to me, she is the mama of 3 unbelievable kids. So, Rabbi Altman, I welcome you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So good to be here.
And we're also honoring, we're expanding our tent, or making sure, let's just say that we are expanded, that we are open on all sides, that we invite in anyone who wishes to engage by showing them with a full heart that they are nothing less than created by the divine. And so our service tonight will be highlighting maybe some ways to give you inspiration, to be sure that that's your message and your mission. All right, going to begin with the kindling of our Shabbat candles. And Jerry, if you would kindly move the slides just one forward, please. Come in as you are. You do not have to shine yourself off or polish off your grit. Make your brokenness a blessing, having used it to harm or as a hardened defense. Come in to honor life, to learn and to teach. Transparency opens us, whereas hiding closes us. Pretending reveals nothing, whereas the truth reveals everything. Welcome. Come in with all that you have. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. I invite you to rise physically or spiritually as we continue with Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsha b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom tehillah lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'aharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava urahatzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim. Rabbi Altman.
Yes, God of our ancestors, support me as I take on this work of creating and supporting holy communities. May my words and actions help to create an open, inclusive, accessible, and welcoming Jewish world. Source of connection, just as you take note of those who call out to you, help me to pay attention to the people in my community with disabilities and to take the time to listen as they communicate their needs, desires, and emotions. I know that the task is not mine alone. Help me to build partnerships and to remain mindful of my own limitations and to continue to work even when it is difficult. Redeemer, may I continue to be a part of communities that value the gifts of each individual and that respect the challenges that each individual faces. Guide me as I work to create space where each unique person feels comfortable and seen, and where differences are seen as a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Mishneh Habriot. Thank you, God, for making your creations varied.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Next slide. Varachuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch.
We are not the fringes of our garment, but the entire garment. We are not in need of shelter. We are shelter. And our abilities are not our shame or our unraveling. Rather, by weaving our own existence, we weave self and community, holding difference, embracing life. We cannot, nor shall we ever be contained all the weaving days of our lives.
We invite you to rise physically or spiritually for our call to worship. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
I am the world, not separate or apart, not one among many, but many within one. I am the world, birthing and dying, growing young and growing old. I am the world, capable of sustaining all who need me, if I would but give myself away.
Inspired by the Shema by Neil Katz. I cannot speak. For whatever reason, God has intended me to be mute. Many people might believe that I cannot think. But despite their thinking, I can. What's more is that I listen. A lot of people stare at me, and when they do, I listen to their body movements and eye gaze. I listen to their ignorance. I listen because I have no choice but to take in the world in the way I can. Listening is different from hearing. When you hear someone, you simply recognize that they are emoting sounds. When you listen to someone, you actually process what they are saying and internalize it. I've listened enough. It's time for me to speak, however it may sound, through my electronic device, my hands, or my mouth. Now it's your time to listen. Are you ready?
Listening comes hard to us. Loving comes hard to us. We can sing and read and look, taste and smell and touch, but listening comes hard to us. Loving does too. Other people's joy and tragedy enter our minds, but listening to the person behind the joy, letting in the person underneath the tragedy, that takes hard concentration, a strong will. That takes God. God is to listen. God is to be listened for. The world looks the same. The people all around us look the same. But underneath the ordinary is a special quiet which we cannot see. We have to listen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. This Hashkivenu prayer is a prayer of uncertainty, or at least acknowledging that sometimes we're anxious, sometimes we're unsure, and that it's okay, that there is a God above, and that God above, filled with compassion, and maybe more important, filled with listening, is there to hear in those moments. This particular prayer, done when we are laying down at our most vulnerable, allows us to open our hearts and our minds to all that is possible. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamitenu shomrenu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, fros aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Amen. We work towards a freedom for all, and we will not rest until that is true. Why? Because we understand the plight of the stranger. We understand the plight of those yet to be redeemed. We are there, and we have so much work to do. Mi chamacha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamacha neder b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei fele, nora tehilot osei fele. מלכותך רבובנתך בוקע ים לפני משה זילי רנו ואמרו.
The Mishnah tells us, don't look at the flask, but at what it contains. And teaching ourselves to see the inner sparks that light a person's soul, rather than merely glancing at the casing that holds those precious assets of personality, aspiration, and caring, we can act like God in the wilderness, healing when we can, and transcending limits when we cannot. Rabbi Shavit Arson.
We rise physically or spiritually for our tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi tehillateh. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Velohei Rachel. Ha'el Haggadah, Hagibah, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ובקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיי, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. HaKadosh, V'Shem HaKadosh, U'Kadoshim B'Ho Yom Yalucha, Salah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Praying. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak.
We take a moment for that opportunity. Jerry, we're ready for the next slide. Let's try that again. There we go. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah melech Adon lecho hashalom. Ki atah melech Adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Seder Kriyat Torah Shabbat begins with our declaration once again, our motto, as it were. Jerry, if you would advance the slide. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. And Rabbi, because I know you're a professional, if you would honor us with the brachot, that would be amazing.
Of course. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Ba'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Don't try that at home, guys. I mean, she did it without a mat and everything. That was an excellent dismount, even without a slide. I think that was, clearly JTS training right there. All right, I'm going to make this closer to me. It's nice being middle-aged. Amen. Lo tisa shamashal atashet yadcha im rasha lihyod eid Hamas. לא תהיה אחרי רבים לרעות, ולא תענה ריב, לנטות אחרי רבים לחטות, ודל לא תהדר בריבו. כי תפגע שור אויבך, או חמורו טועה, השב תשיבנו לו. Next slide. כי תראה המור שונאך, רובת תחת מסעו, וחדלת מעזוב לו, עזוב תעזוב עמו. לא תטה משפט אביונך בריבו, מדבר שקר תרחק, ונקי וצדיק אל תהרוג, כי לא אצדיק רשע, ושוחד לא תיקח, כי השוחד יעבר פיקחים, וסלף דברי צדיקים. And back to the first slide, please, Jerry. You must not carry false rumors. You shall not join hands with the guilty to act as a malicious witness. By the way, this is Parashat Mishpatim. You shall neither side with the mighty to do wrong, nor shall you give perverse testimony in a dispute as to pervert it in favor of the mighty, nor shall you show deference to a poor man in his dispute. When you encounter your enemy's ox or donkey wandering, you must take it back to him. When you see the donkey of your enemy lying under its burden and would refrain from raising it, you must nevertheless raise it with him. You shall not subvert the rights of the needy in their disputes. Keep far from a false charge. Do not bring death on those who are innocent and in the right, for I will not acquit the wrongdoer. Do not take bribes, for the bribes blind the clear-sighted and upset the pleas of. Oh my goodness, I have oh goodness gracious. Set the pleas of those who are in the right. Parshat Mishpatim is filled with laws. That's where it gets its name. And some are trickier and interesting to read, and some of them are so glorious as what I've chanted for you just here. It's quite exquisite. All right, Rabbi, a one and a two. Are you muted, Rabbi? Jerry, can you hear Rabbi Altman?
No, I cannot.
Okay. Well, I will do this for you, Rabbi. Just this time only. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. All right, Rabbi, you're up. We can't hear you, Hev. Aren't technical difficulties fun? Even all these months in YouTube land, it's still shocking that these things happen.
Now,
Oh, yes, we got you, Rabbi. You're back.
okay, good. I'm gonna just try one more time to get my AirPods in and see if those work. And if not, I'll go back to this.
Okay.
That was strange. Now, can you hear me? You there? You can hear me?
Yes.
No. And now? Okay. Oh my gosh. Sorry. What timing, huh? Okay. You can hear me though, yeah? I don't know why I can't hear you. Okay, good. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for having me here. Lovely to welcome Shabbat with you all. This week's parsha, as we just saw, is about all these rules, all these laws, what we shouldn't do. And it seems kind of maybe clear to understand what it's all about, why it's all about. And some of them are very specific, like very, very specific, but others less so. And I wanted to start by thinking about rules and laws, and how do you feel when someone comments to you or about maybe you're breaking a law or breaking a rule, or someone complains about someone else breaking a law or breaking a rule? What is your initial reaction to that? Because I think that's important for us as a community that has all these rules and laws to guide us. One piece that we didn't read was about you shall not wrong a ger, a stranger, or oppress them, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Right? Very familiar piece of Torah that comes across in our liturgy again and again. And then it goes on, you shall not ill-treat any widows or orphans. So, of course, right, that all touches our heart. We want to be welcoming and inclusive. We don't want to mistreat anybody, and especially the people who are more vulnerable, someone who's a stranger walking into our space, into our community, or someone who has experienced a loss and lives in a way that is different than they did before or different than us. But the Torah doesn't tell us what this actually means. It doesn't tell us what wronging a ger means or what ill-treating it means. Excuse me for that. So we're left to wonder what that means. And if we were to sit together and try to figure out, what are the things of how we could wrong someone, how we could not include someone, how we could make them feel unwelcome or not a part of us, we could probably come up with a list of things. But that assumes that the people who are sitting together trying to figure out what it means to wrong the stranger or to mistreat a widow or orphan or anyone else that is in a position that's more vulnerable than us, that we are not in those positions. God doesn't say. So how do we know? Well, I think the answer comes in what comes next. after these verses, it's God saying, if you do mistreat them, I will heed their outcry as soon as they cry out to me. Shamoa eshama tza'ako. That word shema that we hear again and again in our liturgy. So really, it's not us trying to figure out necessarily what others need, but us, God listens, right? God is listening, hearing our cries. And that instructs us that we can't just figure it out on our own. Right? We have to listen. We have to ask and listen and be present with people who are different than us, people who may have not been included at the table before, or people who may not have felt comfortable sharing their experience that's different. So it's not for me, right, to, as a rabbi or as a leader, to come up with all these things of ways to be inclusive. It's for me to invite conversation, to invite a place where we can all discuss how can we be inclusive for all of us to be able to participate in all of the levels of participation. That is our instruction, right? So there's this not as specific as other laws of you shall not mistreat a ger, right? Someone who is a stranger, someone who is not necessarily in the inside, or their voice is not in the inside, or their voice. But our instruction is to be like, as we are created in the divine image, to see each person created in the divine image, but also to act as God acts in this text, of being the person, being the people who listen, who say, Shamoa eshama, right? I will listen, and not just listen, but doubly, right? It's one of those times where the word is used twice to emphasize, right? That I will heed, I will let it penetrate me, right? People's cries. And it doesn't have to be necessarily to the point where people are crying out, right, in pain, but their cries, their needs, their yearnings, right? I will listen. So with all of these very specific laws, if we can get caught up on that, we can get caught up on, am I doing it right? What happens if I'm not doing it right? And what we come back to again and again is our capacity to listen and to be present. And that is the way that we imitate God, that we are God-like, that we act in the divine image. Be able to be with and to listen with all of our senses. And sometimes, I started out saying, how do we feel like when you hear rules or you may not be doing it right, or that it can be challenging for us to reconsider how we do things. And that we have to have this kind of humility that we are always listening. We are each in our own world, doing things based on our own experiences and our own learning and our own growth and the way, the environment that we're in. And we have to listen like beyond that. We have to hear, we have to reach out beyond that and that is the way that we don't mistreat people. That is the way that we don't wrong people. So that is the way that we honor, that we respect, that we do right by people, that we do right by ourselves, by listening and having the discussion with everyone a part of it. And it is a challenge for all of us, and for communities and organizations that work in the same way, right? To change the culture, to always be ready to open and listen and consider that maybe the way I'm seeing or hearing things or perceiving things is not the way that works for so many others. So our instruction from Mishpatim on this disability and inclusion Shabbat is Shamoa eshama, is to listen deeply. And the consequence in the Torah, God says, if you don't do this, I'm going to, right? And you will become widows and orphans. There's this kind of punishment factor. But the consequence really is distance, but that represents distance between us and God, between us and godliness in our connection with other people. If we aren't constantly opening ourselves more and more to listen and to hear beyond our own experience, then we will be separated and disconnected. And that is such a loss. So I'm going to take that with us, that kind of additional teaching that we can add on to Shema every time we say it, right? That it's not just listening to ourselves, not listening to God, but being open to really listening, to being a part of experiences beyond our own experience and beyond our own comprehension. And that is such, I think, a beautiful and valuable teaching that stretches us and pushes us and gives us an opportunity to help support one another with that. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Rabbi. That was beautiful. We are going
so good to hear you now.
You too. I got a little nervous with those silly technical issues. My goodness.
In the middle of the Torah reading, you were like,
I know.
and I was so scared.
I might have fallen off who knows what happened to me. I don't know, but always exciting hearing ZoomTube. Always.
Yes.
All right. Our thoughts turn to those who are in need of healing, body, mind, spirit. And we have been asked to think of Fran Cherek Abramowitz, I beg your pardon, Aviva Aliza, Laura Kina Aronson, Davida Berman, Harvey Bowler, David Burchett, Fega Sora Barchaya, Francine Eisen, Jonah Enbar, Stephen Engelman, Doreen Evans, Eslyn Garb, Phyllis Goldblatt, Don Grandolfo, Mimi Harris, Robert Heyman, Leah Jones, Carl Kalben, Harold Katz, Jeffrey Krause, Roy Lloyd, Miriam Lyon, Gerald Marks, Eileen McNichols, Jimmy Miller, Sharon Montesi Garskoff, Nikki Moulton, Moshe Ben Chava Ben Natan, Irene Noparstak, Lois Pavilon, Aaron Potter, Gary Priest, Rich Reisman, Alan Sager, Casey Ciengo, Kristen Rouse-Skinner, Rob Stein, Tolly Stein, Cameron Michael Taft, John Thomas, Avraham Ben Sivia, Yosef Raphael Ben Yehudit. Jerry, are there other names from our YouTube for us to keep in our hearts?
Yes, 1 second. I apologize for any mispronunciations. We have Lincoln Davis, Wayne Hansen, Lois Bonsignor, Bonnie Fields Leibovich, Diane Jacoel, Layla Holly, Skylar Mattel, Lori Alpert Coots, Louise Kevorkian, Laura Colasa, Izzy Weiss, the Chisworth family, Bella sorry, 1 second.
Eisenstadt. It's okay.
Eisenstadt, Mindy Jordan, Merle Weston, and Jim Hennessy.
Thank you. And I also am sorry for any mispronunciations. Mi sheberavotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach. Back to the other slide, Jer. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
All right, we invite you to rise physically or spiritually for Aleinu. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כהמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למעלה כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. On this Thursday, you can advance the slide, Jerry. Actually, did it not come out? One more slide, please. We have a problem. Some of our slides didn't translate. Okay, well, we're not going to worry about that right now. Jerry, they were there earlier. Is there anything that you could point to that would help us figure out why that slide disappeared with all the names on it?
Give me 1 second.
Okay. While you're doing that, let me just say that this last Thursday was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And my daughter said to me, and some of you may have seen this on Facebook, that if we were to take a moment of silence for everybody who perished in the Holocaust, we would need to be silent for 11 and a half years. Let that sink in. 11 and a half years of our silence. Remember, it didn't start with a gas chamber. It started with politicians dividing the people into us versus them. It started with intolerance and hate speech. And when people stopped caring, became desensitized and turned a blind eye. What we say matters. Our moments when we are not our highest selves and we act in ways that are callous and even cruel matters. And so we, of course, keep in mind the 6 million who we lost from our people, but the rest of the other 5.5 million whom we've lost from other peoples should never have happened, and yet. All right, Jerry, were you able to find them? If not, I can read the slide, and everyone will have to understand that we've had some interesting technical challenges tonight, which is sometimes the way life goes.
Okay, we may have to do that.
All right. Strange. A poem that is found in our prayer book, probably one of my very favorites. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life is lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. We remember the following Yahrzeit, which took place, in the last week. Gisela Amster, Sidney Blankstein, Michael Bolker, Leo Bonham, Harris Braverman, Roy F. Cogan, Morris Cornick, Marcus Dannenberg, George Dombach, Susan Edwards, Milton Fink, Beverly Getzenberg, Pat Hall, Joseph Hanmacher, Clara Hartog, Gussie Herman, Doretta Hoffman, Max Hyman, Ida Kirsten, Isidore Lerner, Charles Markels, Hugo Munzer, Peter Pakin, Leonore Peskin, William Phillips, Marilyn Roberts, Joseph Rostker, Sidel Rubenstein, Edward P. Saltiel, Kate H. Schneider, Joseph Schwartz, Pete Seeger, Natalie W. Seglin, Patricia Joyce Sheffer, Jacob J. Sommerfeld, Samuel J. Steiner, Jacob Van Emden, Albert Wagner, Isaac Zimmerman, and in Shloshim, Gordon Murphy. Jerry, may we turn back to the slides, please, which show Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish. Beautiful. Join with me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach irute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayachon uvyomachon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izban kariv v'imeru, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach, le'olam u'almei almaya, יתברך וישתבח ויפאר וירומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה. Back one more, Jerry. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרמיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו, amen. May the source of peace, who sends peace to all those among us, may it send peace to you in your moment of bereavement, knowing your community, of course, sends you love and healing. Many, many thanks to Rabbi Heather Altman, who so ably helped us this evening. I'm so grateful to you, Heather, for your scholarship and for your friendship. And to Jerry Love, our tech captain, who helped us negotiate even some craziness. I'm grateful to you all.
Always a pleasure to be here with you and to be in your services. Look forward to getting back to Tefillah Yoga when we can get in person again.
Oh, I agree. And if you've never been to Rabbi Heather's Tefillah Yoga, I know some of you were hesitant, and I understand completely, right? Where this is a pandemic, but I'll tell you something, it's transformative. So something to keep in the back of your head. We're going to end with Maya Fahayom. Maya Fahayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fahayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Maya Fehayom. Shabbat, Shalom. Maya Fehayom. Shabbat Shalom. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May Adonai bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elacha v'hunaka. May God smile upon you and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasemcha shalom. May God lift you up, acknowledging all of us are so vastly different, all with abilities and challenges, and yet all of us shining the divine light back to God. And may God bless you with peace. I wish you Shabbat Shalom.